Labo VR may not be the premier VR experience, but for the tech and price, it still offers a very convincing effect. And now that Breath of the Wild has been fully updated with the virtual reality mode, we're getting blown away all over again. The massive world now feels even more massive, as you can now get a sense of scale for everything, and something as simple as riding a horse is now more engrossing than ever, even if the image quality isn't great. So what are the essential things to do in Breath of the Wild's new VR mode? Sure, you could start a brand new game and play the whole thing with a chunk of cardboard on your face, but what activities and areas are essential for your VR tourism? Number 1! Get a sense of how tall the mountains really are! Breath of the Wild's mountains tower over Hyrule, but have you ever taken a moment to consider just how large they really are? 2D doesn't quite do it justice. When you've got the headset on and you take a glance up at the sky and see the mountains going on and on, it kinda takes your breath away. Like, go to Twin Peaks or Mount Lanayru and just see how small Link is in the shadow of these gargantuan rocks. And okay, we can go on about the scale of Breath of the Wild forever, but seriously, go visit a divine beast and see how truly divine they really are. Looking up and tracing their laser to Hyrule Castle is nuts too. Breath of the Wild has never been as big as it is here in virtual reality. Number 2, visit the Forgotten Temple. So your new Guardians would be on this list, and to start with, I was happy just saying, fight a Guardian. It's cool. You really sense the depth in their lasers, and it can be absolutely terrifying. But one isn't enough. How about a den of a half-dozen Guardians all aiming at you at the same time? This is where Breath of the Wild really thrives in virtual reality. Helps that there's all kinds of variations in height in this area too. You can see so many different layers, and try to appreciate it while being fired at in all directions. Number 3, be chased by a Hinox. So usually a Hinox isn't that much of a threat. You just shoot their eye, whack their feet, and kablamo. But now that you can be face to face with them, they're suddenly a lot more intimidating. Especially when they're right on your tail chasing after you. It's also a great way to highlight just how much more intuitive gyro aiming is. It's always been great in Breath of the Wild, but now in VR, you can just look at something and fire away. It makes fights like this an absolute breeze. But this one isn't about fighting. It's about running for your life and appreciating every moment of it. Oh my god, there's a Lionel. Number 4, grab a Cucco. There's an unwritten rule in Zelda where you must hit the Cuccos at least once in your playthrough, and now that we're closer to the action than ever, even this chicken storm is actually kinda ferocious. But there's a lot more you can do. You remember in Ocarina of Time 3D, while holding a Cucco, the feathers would kinda float towards the screen and give off a really convincing effect, and that same effect is here in Breath of the Wild. Just running around, holding one of these birds offers one of the best in-your-face effects I've seen in Labo VR. Mix that with slowly descending from a massive jump, and you have what's maybe one of the best uses of Labo VR. Hyrule Castle has a somewhat similar effect with particles floating around, but the Lost Woods seems to have been toned down for VR, which was probably for the best. Number 5, fill the air. Alright, so bear with me for a second here. This one needs a Toy-Con. So using Revali's Gale in VR is actually really cool as you zoom off the ground. But what if we could throw in a 4D experience? Well, that's what the wind pedal is here for. So while you can't execute Revali's Gale with the pedal, just stomp down on it when you see fit. For instance, I'm using the buttons to unleash Revali's Gale, and here we go, a burst of air to accommodate it. It sounds silly, and it probably is silly, but it really does engross you in the moment, even if it does nothing to interact with the game. Number 6, ride around. Sometimes it's nice to just sit back and let your horse guide you in Breath of the Wild as you just watch the world go by, and VR adds a lot to this. It's now more than just watching the world, it's about being in it. You can let your horse take control, sit in a swivel chair, and just take in everything around you. Or you can be a bit more hands-on and do just that in the Master Cycle. Either way, seeing the world go by while zooming around is both exhilarating and incredibly peaceful. Number 7, gliding and falling! I'm starting to notice that a lot of these are about putting yourself in direct danger. Hyrule isn't just vast in Breath of the Wild, it's tall. There's thousands of places to jump from, and while paragliding around can be jaw-dropping, jumping off an edge at high speeds while looking down at the ground is what it's really about. Hey, you know what? Let's bring the wind pedal back. Number 8, go inside. Hyrule's all well and good, and the depth just goes on forever, but sometimes it's nice to just immerse yourself in smaller spaces, and it's especially welcoming when venturing inside after a long adventure. There's something relieving about seeing everything in close proximity, and while inside, you can just watch how characters animate and see all the layers working together. Number 9, fight Calamity Ganon. Alright, so mild spoilers for this one, and we won't show the actual fight. Cutscenes in Breath of the Wild are all pre-rendered, meaning you can't view them in 3D space because they're all stuck in their 2D form. But one major cutscene is fully in-game, and that's when you enter Calamity Ganon's Sanctum. And what a cutscene to have, because there's so much going on here. From lasers zipping around the screen to debris falling in your face. It's almost like this scene was made to be experienced in VR. And number 10, visit Satori Mountain. Am I facing the camera? No. No, I am not. Breath of the Wild is packed with beautiful locales, but none perhaps as breathtaking as Satori Mountain, especially if you're lucky enough to visit at a special time. Seeing all the petals in 3D space and the array of colours is quite a sight. You can also look down from the top of the mountain and see some of Hyrule's best scenery. So while Breath of the Wild in VR has some setbacks with image quality, it still offers moments that everyone should experience. I'm very tempted to play the entire game again in VR. But what do you guys think about the mode so far? Let us know in the comments below, and of course be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for a lot more on Labo VR and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.